Hey everyone, Michelle back with another spooky Reddit read. This is episode 25 and the title of this Reddit read is called My Family Met a Ghost and Interacted with It for Years. Ask Me Anything. This story was posted fairly recently. I believe it was 5 months ago. It's not showing on this screen, but... I grew up in a very old house in the Midwest that my parents got for a steal. It was originally built as a hotel, and the seller was very motivated to get rid of it. Growing up, weird little things happened all the time, the typical malarkey that is easy to ignore for years and years. Footsteps, strange shadows, the feelings of being watched or followed, swearing you saw someone in the room right next to you as you woke up, the room in the basement that chills your blood every time for no reason. The occasional hard-to-explain moments. I moved to the West Coast in my 20s for school and self-discovery. During a visit from my family, my sister told me they had met a ghost in the house. I was pretty skeptical, but my entire family backed her up. She was in her room, and her radio had been acting up. So just on the off chance, she said, "Okay, if you are a ghost, could you just please stop it?" And the radio turned off. She waited a moment and then said, "Wait, if you are a ghost, turn it on." And the radio turned back on. After some experimentation, they devised a system of communication. Volume up was yes, volume down was no. The digital readout on the volume was 0 to 30, so 1 was A, 2 was B, 3 was C, and so on. If the radio turned off, then it was sort of hard, no, or off limits questions. Through this system, the ghost had explained that he wanted to be called Jason, with a Y. He had died in the house in 1905, at the age of 5 when he was sick, and he lived in the house alongside us with his kind mother and evil father. When they asked if he loved his father, the volume went to 0 and turned off. In fact, he refused most questions about his father. Apparently, he was the cause of the more malevolent experiences that people had been having in our house. I was definitely intrigued and went back home that year to visit for a chance to experience this for myself. However, when I arrived, Jason refused to interact with me. I would leave the table and the radio would pop on. My sisters would call me back and the radio would turn off instantly. He didn't want anything to do with me. As I thought about this, I remembered an experience I had before moving out to the West Coast. I had been lying in bed one night and I felt a hand ruffle my hair playfully. I freaked out. I shot out of the bed and I turned on the light. I puffed out my chest and overconfidently yelled, "You don't know who I am or what I'm capable of. If you try that again, you'll regret it. Don't you dare mess with me." And then several picture frames on my desk flew off onto the floor belligerently. I stayed at a friend's house that night. One night on my trip after Jason refused to talk to me, I spoke out loud, "Hey, I'm sorry if it was you who I yelled at that one night. I bet you were trying to play or introduce yourself to me and I got scared. I didn't need to be so mean to you, and I understand if you don't want to talk to me." The radio turned on. "Hey, are you Jason? I have heard so much about you." The volume went up. "Did I tell you that the night before I left?" The volume went up again, and then went back down to a reasonable level. "I'm sorry about that. Can we be friends?" The volume went up again. It was incredible. He had introduced himself to several family members as well to prove he wasn't some sort of hacked radio. He would do additional tests. He would ring our doorbell. He would push crayons around on the table. He even did a really incredible trick for us. You see, while asking about the logistics of being a ghost, he had volumed up that he could travel anywhere almost instantly. To test it, we called up a family and friend on the West Coast, and this friend put out a newspaper on their kitchen table. Jason then visited them and came back and set the volume to the date of the paper. The radio turned off for a moment, then seconds later it set the volume to 17. The friend said, "So close." The paper was from the 18th, but Jason was not convinced. Volume up, volume down, 17, volume down, 17, 17, 17. The friend checked again and apologized and said, "Oh, he's right. I misremembered. The paper is from the 17th. He refused to answer questions about God or religion. He gave us a few answers that contradicted as well. He told us he didn't need to sleep, but then he told my sister a few months earlier that he did. One thing he seemed to know was how long he would be there. Through the volume on this Ouija-type system, he told my sister he would be around until her 28th birthday, and then his family would move on to their next phase. At that time, this was a couple of years into the future. Sure enough, we never heard from him again after her 28th birthday. During his time, he would occasionally visit our dreams. He would have these extremely realistic dreams where a boy in a white hooded robe would say hi to us, ask to play hide and go seek with us, or ask us questions about ourselves. Then he would confirm with my sister that he had visited. He had used the radio primarily, but in the final year he got better at manipulating other electronics. He could make printers print out messages. He could manipulate televisions. He even sent us texts in the last few months. My mother had texted me, "I see you, haha." When I was back in the West Coast a couple of years after all of this, I texted her back, "Did you come out here to visit? Where are you?" But she was confused. She said she was in the Midwest at home and her phone had no evidence of sending a text message to me. I texted back, "I think Jason sent me a message. Hi, Jason." And I got a reply, "Hi again," not from my mom. My sister even once got a call with a picture of Obama on the caller ID saying, "Mr. President," but there was nobody there and she answered apparently no callback number. The radio confirmed with a volume up that it was Jason was goofing around. It was a wild few years with that crazy kid haunting our devices. My family still had that radio out just in case, but it hasn't turned on in years, and my sister is now well into her 30s. I know this will be met with a lot of skepticism. Even I was very skeptical until I was able to meet him myself. However, I think it's finally time to share this and to answer questions people might have about it. So what do you got? Ask me anything. Thanks for the questions. I will try to respond to more questions later on and follow up with my family. So she did add on down at the bottom here. She edited to say, yes, they still live in the home. Her family still lives in the home. Her mom and her sister. There have been no further communication or experiences from Jason or the father since her sister turned 28. So, sorry, that was a long one, and I did stumble a couple of times. I apologize. Sometimes the way they've written the story, they make a few typos, and then I have to correct as I'm reading. I do that, and I usually get rid of them, but this time I just decided they weren't that bad. This is a really interesting story. Manipulation of electronics is really common on investigations in the paranormal field. I'm a paranormal investigator of 15 years, so I can say that. And we use spirit boxes, which is the manipulation of a radio device. So although it does kind of sound a little bit far-fetched, it really doesn't sound that crazy. The Obama call one, kind of strange, right? Learning how to text from their phones. Strange. Interesting that it goes from place to place. Seemed very playful and unharmful. What do you guys think? Just a friendly child spirit here or something more? Do you believe all of this story? Or do you think it's maybe a little embellished? What are your thoughts? Drop them in the comments and please share this video as always. Thank you guys.